Welcome, everybody. We are expecting around 150 attendees around Australia tonight. Welcome, everybody. Today, we are going to dive into how AI is revolutionizing project management with practical insight from real enterprise case studies. Before we proceed, Lloyd and thank you. Before we proceed, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Here's what we will cover today. So this session will be very interesting. We are going to start with foundational AI insights, and then we'll be moving on to exciting real-world examples. And finally, we are going to have a wrap-up with a Q&A sessions. Just let you know that the Q&A sessions, you can feel free to put all the questions on the chat throughout the session, and we are going to look after them throughout and also have them answered at the end during the Q&A segment. A bit of housekeeping. The next slide. Before we begin, there is some quick guidelines to ensure an enjoyable session for everybody. So as you noticed, when you joined in, by default, everyone but the guest speaker will be muted. Also, your camera will be off. As mentioned earlier, if you've got some questions, you can feel free to submit them at any point in time using the chat feature, and we will address them throughout the presentation and also during the Q&A session. So now about this session, artificial intelligence, like AI, is no longer a distant innovation, but rather a dynamic force reshaping the landscape of project management. So while the discussions around Gen AI and ChatGPT have captured the spotlight over the last few years, the broader scope and impact of AI technologies extend far deeper. So this session takes you beyond the surface to explore how AI-driven tools are delivering faster, smarter, and more efficient project outcomes today. So through compelling real-world applications and detailed case studies, we'll uncover how organizations have successfully integrated to not only enhance the decision-making, but also optimize resource allocation and streamline complex workflows. So we hope that we'll gain insights into both the theoretical framework and practical strategies that make AI implementation effective. So again, welcome everyone. My name is Letitia, and I am one of the directors at PMI Sydney chapter. And joining me today is Julia, our events director, also from PMI Sydney chapter. And together we've organized this wonderful session featuring our guest speaker, Lloyd Skinner, who joins us from the UK. Lloyd will provide a balanced perspective, sharing both successes and challenges to help guide your own AI transformation journey. So welcome, Lloyd, and good morning. We are thrilled to have you join us today. And Lloyd, just FYI, if you are muted, please unmute yourself. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Sorry, I thought you were muting. Good morning from the UK, everybody. Good evening to you all, and thank you so much for the kind invitation today. Beautiful sunshine in the UK this morning. Can you believe that? So I'm going to talk a little bit further. As Letitia said, there's plenty of opportunity to pose Q&As as we go. Just the marketing spiel there. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, do follow the QR code or follow greyfly.ai. For those people that are getting started on this AI and project management area, I just wanted to start by putting up a couple of statistics there. So in the UK, we have our own professional body as well as PMI, so the Association of Project Management. And what you can see there from these statistics are that, first of all, lots of organizations are beginning this journey of adoption. You know, it may still be in your particular organization early days, but you're definitely starting to think about this, and we'll check that in 1 second. However, if you believe the statistics of our Global Project Management Institute, if you do embrace AI in project management, there's a wonderful opportunity for return on investment. And, you know, wherever you see that percentage there in your particular view, I think the point there is it can't be ignored. Now, actually, as part of projects and project management, it's my humble opinion that it's a fantastic time to be embracing AI, embracing projects. And you guys, no matter where you are in your career, one of the key messages that I want you to take away today is begin that process of embracing AI in project management. You know, you guys are the people that create projects, that create the change. And we all know that everything is a project in our world, don't we? So, right, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So, my journey of AI and project management actually started some 7 years ago when I went on I did a master's at LSE in information systems. And some 7 years ago, I went on the 25-year anniversary of doing that master's. So I finished in early 90s, if you can calculate that. And basically, I got chatting to somebody who became my business partner about the technologies that we'd been taught at LSE hadn't at that stage been applied to project management, you know, so whether we're talking about big data, cloud compute, or AI as it were. So out of the back of that, Greyfly.ai was born, and over that time, we've been building up a series of products, researching exactly what's going on in the world of AI and project management. I can just caveat that straight away. There's nobody in the world that can keep up with the speed of change of what's happening. So you know, I would definitely encourage you to look at other speakers, look at other networks as well around it. These days, I'm kind of lucky, as well as speaking to you, I get to speak at various global events as well. So I'm off to Saudi in a couple of weeks. I'm speaking with projectmanagement.org about AI and sustainability tomorrow evening as well, tomorrow evening my time. So that's a little bit about me, but I'd like to understand a little bit about you as well. And this is a question that I always pose at the beginning of my talks to get a feel of your level of AI understanding. And because I'm such a fun guy, I like to do that compared to characters within Star Wars. So do we have any Yodas on the call today? So you really, really understand AI, and actually you have multiple experiences around the application of AI, or are you the complete the other end? And you know, these days maybe there's somebody on the call that hasn't, you know, used the likes of ChatGPT yet. I doubt it. It's as prevalent as the use of Google was, I think. So, are you just an Ewok? Occasionally, you put your shopping list or work out an email that you want to write to somebody, or perhaps actually, you know, you've embraced a certain use case, as it were, and you're finding great benefit around that Or maybe you're doing multiple use cases. You're more of a layer side, or maybe actually you've embedded this within the likes of your project execution. So Letitia, could you just bring the poll up for me quickly? Thank you so much. Like I said, we've done this multiple times, as it were. So it's always interesting to see the results of this kind of stuff. It's settling down. We've got 29. Let's just give it another 30 seconds just to click away there and let's see what we've got going on. Isn't it great to see how dynamic it is going up and down on the screen there? So just another 10 seconds and let's see what we're seeing there. Okay. If you just leave the results on the screen 1 second. Now I can tell you, I've been asking that question over 2 years now. And when I first asked that question, you were lucky to get another Chewbacca on the call, as it were. But as you can see there now, the spread of maturity of AI is certainly in the realms of the Chewbacca and the Leia, roughly, a third each of the people there, a third at the Ewok stage. It's great that we have some Obi-Wans and Yodas on the call. Maybe we should flip the tables and get those guys to speak. It's great. Who claimed to be a Yoda?
Lloyd, just one thing. They can't
Yes.
see the results because you're
Oh,
sharing.
nobody can see it. Do you want to just type it in there quickly? As you're typing,
I'll
I'll
share
just
it.
read them out. Ewok was 26%, Chewbacca 35%, Leia 30%, Obi-Wan 4%, and Yoda 6%. So on the call, we have 5 people who are up in the upper echelons of the use of AI, which is fantastic. And maybe ping me separately, guys, to hear what you're doing. I'm always intrigued, people that are claiming to be Yodas. I did this 2 years ago, and the lady, lovely Italian lady, told me she was just joking when she put her hand up. So let's see if somebody's actually claiming that. But my point there is you can see the level of maturity is going forward over time, and very happy to hear about some of those use cases, and that really means that we should get some great Q&As as well. So there you go. Is it sharing that? Okay. I'm going to move on. Thank you very much for that, people. Let's move on to the actual talk itself. Before we dive in to case studies, if you would bear with me a second, I'm just going to contextualize what we're talking about here. And I think actually the first thing to consider is, well, what problem are you trying to address with AI and project management? We've been told now for various over many years by both professional bodies and academics that when you look at the traditional definition of project success, so the deliver to time, time, cost, and scope, that projects tend to overrun, and depending on which particular research you're looking at, that can be ranging from between 60 to 90% plus, as it were. Now, I'm very in tune with the new definition of project success that's coming out of PMI. I'm actually part of the working party that's redefined that definition of success to look at over the longer term. So not just look at execution, but look at outcomes, looking at how to elevate projects and us as project managers to look at that success in the long term, in particular from a sustainability angle. So if you guys haven't seen the recent announcement of mergers or joint ventures with green project management, then do look at that. But the point here is, what are you trying to do? Is it actually to make projects more consistent in terms of delivery to plan or budget? Is it to release some effort, within certain staff members? Perhaps AI can allow you to do things quicker, faster, and let's assume that includes better as well. Or is it about unlocking some of that knowledge that is hidden away within your data sets and teasing that out and bringing it to the surface? Or is it just a way that actually we're looking at better factual information in the first place? So one of the first things I'd like to for you to consider when you're thinking about AI and project management is, what problem are you trying to solve in the first place? Now, from my perspective, and I've been talking about this for many a time, I see AI and project management basically having two dimensions. The first dimension is one of efficiency, so doing things right, so doing things faster, quicker, and like I said, bringing the speed of project execution more rapid, whether that's writing communications, whether that's the basic starting of writing up minutes and actions from meetings. Maybe that's creation of project charters or first pass risk logs or assumptions. Maybe it's actually passing that information along the path. So there's a whole thing there about doing things faster, efficiency side. I think the other side of that for me is as important, which is about doing the right things in the first place, the effectiveness side, as it were. So doing things right versus doing the right things. Now, what do I mean by about doing the right things? I'm linking that to decision making. So for example, is it about selecting the project in the first place? So if you are more confident that the outcome of a project is going to be far worse than what's been presented to you, and by worse I mean more expensive or more time consuming, then perhaps if I'm a project sponsor, maybe I don't want to approve that project. Maybe I want to put my hard-earned money into another project. Or if I'm through a project or at the beginning of a project, knowing how to address my key risks is all part of decision making, or teasing out those lessons learned and making sure that they're not shelfware where those lessons have traditionally been. So for me, do think about AI and project management from those dimensions. Ultimately, I tie it back into project success, and for those that have seen the definition about value as well, worth the effort and the expense of undertaking the project. So if AI can help us improve project success, then that is got to be a good thing. So I'm just going to move on a little bit. Now, AI, I don't know about you guys, but basically AI seems to be the ubiquitous term now for anything that has got to do with computing or technology. My child's handheld is suddenly, she's referring it to AI. Every story on my LinkedIn feed, I don't do other social media, but I'm sure other social media is the same. Everything is about AI. In terms of the context around the efficiency and effectiveness of projects, I think these three flavors of AI are probably the most obvious side. So I'm going to talk to you in particular about predictive analytics today and unpack that. But, the clues in the title there: prediction. What's the most likely outcome of a project? On the NLP side and the Gen AI side, yes, they can help with presentation of data, but for me, that's more about tools that can help with the efficiency side that I was just referring to. So yes, lots and lots of definition of what AI is, but for me, these are the key technologies that we're talking about around this. And again, this is not my definition, but ultimately AI is about where we're using technology to mimic the human behavior. Now, I'm going to talk briefly about this relationship with the human in 1 second as well. The other point I want to make here, though, is that in case you haven't got it, AI can help to unlock both efficiency and effectiveness at all stages of the project life cycle. So by that I mean the strategy stage, when you're trying to prioritize, when you're trying to optimize your project execution, or maybe in the design and delivery, the execution side. And I know I've just put some standard terms. I think one of the most exciting things for me that I'm going to talk a little bit about is linking the operate side as well. But again, the whole point here is that AI can be applied from beginning to end, as it were, from strategy through execution to operate. So what are we talking about here in terms of tools? This is just a simple 2 by 2 grid, and I think it's kind of eye-opening, this one, when it comes to the human side. So across the top here, it's about how much human effort's involved. Down the side, it's how adaptive the systems. And if I go back a couple of years, there's every tool was in that streamlining and automation box, as we know, big drives to make workflows more efficient. I think over time, what we're seeing here is the drift into insight and foresight, so prediction tools, and similarly, we're seeing the drift into AI agents as well. So AI agents being able to go beyond traditional chatbots and really automate elements of the workflow and do that without the use of human or with the semi-autonomous human. Now, I think one of the things I'm going to stop and just see some quite little comments on this in 1 second is the bionic or the self-directed project. So where the human is not in the loop, do we envisage a day where projects will be completely autonomous? Letitia and Julia, just if I just encourage people to answer that question 1 second. Do we envisage a day where basically there will be completely autonomous projects, no human in the loop? Let's just give people 30 seconds to drop in their view. And Letitia, Julia, if you just let me know any of the comments coming through, that would be great. Let's just see what people's views are on this quickly. Are the robots going to take over, people? What do you think? Any comments there from Letitia?
Yeah. So you do have a comment. The first one was 2027, and most of the comments we receive, it's some are absolutely not, and some are perhaps, but not completely. We do have someone saying yes.
Yeah. Do they lean towards the no rather than the yes?
Not in full. It's leading to not in full.
Yeah, I
Completely.
think that's for me, that's reasonable. The way I like to see it, and I'm glad the first person said 2027. That's really interesting, by the way. That's certainly a futuristic type of person. I think for me, you need to break that question down, first of all. Again, it's something that I ask many a time, but think about it over time. If I said, will we get autonomous projects within 5 years, I'm sure we'll just get one or two hands up. If I said over 100 years, I would expect more hands to be raised there. So I definitely think there's a time angle, but the other angle is, well, it depends on the scope of the project as well. So generally speaking, the more complex project, the more the human needs to be in the loop of the project. Me personally, I think we're starting to see this already, and it goes back to, well, the word project has such broad definition, such broad meaning to people that you need to think about that. So definitely think about it over time. And if I'd asked the question, in 100 years, I'm sure we would have had more people saying, yeah, I can see that happening. But there's a complexity angle there as well. Well, hold on a second. Let's see what some of our academic colleagues are saying about this. And I think this was a really, really interesting way to see it. And what they did, and this particular, it's a UK university. They're sponsored by a global IT company. I support Chelsea. They play in blue. If anybody wants to know who's sponsoring this research, read between the lines. Yeah. So what they did is they took the core project controls and said which ones had the potential to be replaced by AI. And the way that they looked at that was about the data that was being created. In other words, how tacit or how human based was the data. When I looked at this list, and like I said, it's not my research, I got slightly confused why risk management was on the left hand side and not on the right. It's the same as everything else, because I think there's a human layer in every single process. But you can see that they believe that where we'll be at is in over time that we'll be left with what PMI calls power skills, or what we may also know as soft skills. So communications, influencing, decision making. And again, depending on where you sit from a mindset point of view, where that stops and starts, I think is very interesting. Do we believe we as humans are lazy and we'll just take that first response, or that's response 1.1 out of the, whatever that particular Gen AI tool is suggesting, cutting and pasting it into our communications? Do we even use Gen AI to help us with our stakeholder management plans and how to strategize and maybe even write the comms? Maybe yes, we're still reviewing it. So I actually think it's kind of blurred on all of these. And again, if I go back to my previous point about time as well. Letitia or Julia, any particular comments on what I'm saying from there? Does from anybody worth a quick mention?
Thank you. We've got 2 questions so far.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to read them out loud. One from Merafil. So if we want to prepare for the worst, then I'm keen to know what is the suggested career path for project managers now.
Yeah, correct. But prepare for the worst is an interesting thing. I'm a positive person, as you can tell. Yeah, so generally speaking, I hope that even though we live in a chaotic world at this moment, and that's not going to go away, people, I'm still optimistic for the future. So the real point there, I think, is about project managers and preparing for the future. And actually that's for me is a real key question, as it were. And I'll just go back to what I said earlier, which is be inquisitive. Yeah. So don't just come and listen to Lloyd, listen to other people, go take courses. There's some great courses on LinkedIn. If you're a PMI member, there's great courses that they're chucking out as well. Maybe some of them could be slightly better, but be inquisitive, create a network, find out what's going on in your company, be a leader, not a follower, as it were. So for me, it's all about be inquisitive, upskill yourself. So hopefully that's useful advice to somebody who asked the question. Letitia, do you want to do another quick question, or do you want to move on?
Yeah, no, there is another one from Siri. Given the common issue of knowledge being locked in silos or living with staff turnover, How can AI help in capturing and sharing project knowledge more effectively across teams?
So did you say that was from Siri?
Yes. Well,
Is that
not
was
for
that was
Siri.
that an AI Siri asking that question? Yeah. So sorry, Siri. It's a beautiful name.
Siri, sure.
I'm only kidding. Yeah. For me, unlocking knowledge is really, really interesting, and there's some basic stuff that AI can do, as we know. We can summarize large masses of data more rapidly, so that we don't have to. I mean, I'm working with a huge telco in the UK at the moment, a global telco, and they gave me their controls manual. It was a 500-page document. Wow. In my spare time, I am sad, I'm obsessed with projects, but do you think I'm going to read a 500-page document in detail? I'd rather read a Mills and Boons, if that makes sense to you guys. Maybe I'd rather watch Married at First Sight Australia instead. The point is, it can summarize directly that information. It can do also things like checking for inconsistencies within the data as well. So one document says this, another document says that. It can go even further and be proactive and say, based on best practice, tell me what those suggested controls should be. Appraise the quality of those controls. Tell me that based on our best practice, how many widgets should be in this design as well. So there's a huge opportunity there for unlocking knowledge, as it were. I'm going to carry on just in the interest of time. I said I was going to talk about predictive analytics, and I just want to, this is starting to segue now into a couple of the case studies we mentioned. So the journey that Greyfly.ai has been on is been going through this left to right journey. So first of all, what happened? Which projects were late? Which projects were early? So back to the traditional definition of execution. Why did it happen? Was it always projects in the UK that were delayed? Yeah. Well, that's actually really interesting insight. And of course, I'm just giving you one feature of a project being geographical region. Maybe it was projects in this geographical region that were run by this person. Maybe it was Lloyd's projects that were always late. Actually, Lloyd was okay when it was at technology projects, but don't get him involved in a property project. So you can see there's a set of features that are associated with why a project may be late. Well, hold on a second. If we can predict that outcome, we can say that Lloyd's projects are typically going to take twice as long or twice as over budget. Isn't that fantastic? Well, go one step further. What about if we switched that project from the UK to Sydney? Obviously, it's going to come in under budget and be a lot quicker. So what actions, what prescriptive actions can I undertake? Can I actually do that at the stage of prioritization as well? So if I know the pattern, yeah, why do I just apply that to live projects? Maybe I can apply those same patterns to projects not yet started. If you can imagine there, going left to right, there's some great value, even at those descriptive and diagnostic stages of projects, some great value, of knowledge there that you can use. But as you go there, there's even more value. And if you can embed that within your ways of working, even greater values as well. However, obviously it becomes technically more complex and takes more time to make it happen. I think also there's that dreaded link with the human side as well, on the horizon there. I mentioned about embedding within workflows, whereas we know workflows use systems, they operate processes, humans operate processes as well. So again, all about that relationship. And that's basically what we worked on. So we've got a suite of products called Intelligent Project Prediction. We were lucky enough to get at the start of COVID quite a large government-backed grant to create this. And what it is a system that predicts the most likely outcome of a project, taking a top-down approach. So what's the final milestone? What's the final budget likely to be? And once we've got that what, we also marry that with the why. So if you go back to what I was just saying there with my examples of features, projects from the UK will typically end up being at this budget for this particular type of project. More importantly, I remember many years ago, and I'm sure you've heard about this same saying, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. So also that point about, well, what can I do to bring a project back on track? Which risks should I be addressing as early as possible? And that's basically what we've done here is we've created a system that is aimed at the more portfolio, or if you're running a giga project, the program management layer. And actually we were kind of lucky that in November that we won APM Project of the Year, both technology and innovation. You don't often see me in a bow tie, and obviously that red face was nothing to do with the amount of white wine I'd consumed that evening as well. So I can hear you say, well, how does that work, Lloyd? So the first thing we do is work out what data exists within an organization, and we do a data maturity assessment. So what project data exists, both live and historical. Now, obviously, as you know, guys, the reason we're asking about historical data is because we want to use that data to train the ML models in its own right. That data maturity assessment also comes with a set of recommendations as to how to improve your data over time. And sometimes it's not just a question of improving your data, it's a question of unlocking your data. So, for example, that telco I just mentioned, without giving too much information away, has a raft of scope data in their product systems that don't talk to the project management systems. Wouldn't it be great to know exactly what those products are and exactly how much they're costing the organization, so you can get a clearer view on the margins every time they run a customer project, as an example. So what we do there, as well as baselining the data maturity, we also create something that's called an EDA report, exploratory data analysis. That's really, really important for us because it establishes the KPIs associated with the project data set. So which types of projects are delayed by how much? And of course, what we're suggesting here is by the implementation of the IPP suite of products, we are going to improve that success rates, as it were. Let's assume that your particular organization has sufficient data that we can work out how to move it around into our cloud-based environment. Yes, we're Microsoft partners. Yes, security is very important to us as well. Once we've moved the data into our environment, what we do then is we use that historical data to train the ML models, as I mentioned. We run various ML models, and then we work out which ML model is proving to be the most accurate for that particular data set. What do I mean by accuracy? It's the difference between what the prediction system is suggesting is going to happen and what actually happened on the project. And that's why that historical data set is so important, because we want to get that accuracy rate as high as possible from the get-go. Obviously, as you're ingesting data on a regular basis, you're then fine-tuning those accuracies. And we're creating predictions, and we're creating a set of actionable insights. Go and focus on this project that is not necessarily being reported by the project manager as risk. Embed that within your workflow, as it were. So, really, really important here. Couple of points here that I just like to really focus in on. This is not just a technology journey. This is a transformation journey. You need an adoption work stream or a change management work stream that runs in parallel parallel with your technology work stream. Whether that is working with those people that are resisting the change and you need to work out your comms and training, whether that is actually working out the detail of the workflow analysis, etc. Change management, adoption management is as important as the technology piece. And it is transformation, people. There is a cultural mindset to become more data driven within your projects. Sorry, I'll get off my hobby horse now. The last thing to say is that this is continuous learning as well. You know, these AI models, obviously every time I take a data ingest, so typically in line with the project reporting life cycle, we're trying to maintain the accuracy of the system, as it were. We're also trying to ensure that accuracy is going up over time. Obviously, when you reach 90% plus, it's a law of diminishing returns, and it's as hard to maintain it as it is to get an extra percentage out of it, as it were. So this is broadly how the system works. If you want to hear more, please get in touch with me directly. I'm conscious of time, so I'm just going to introduce something else, and then I'm going to see if there's any questions that we want to take. This is a particular case study. This is a large global logistics organization. They had 300 projects, broadly 100 live, running into multi-million pounds. I'm not sure what the exchange rate is with dollars at the moment, but I know US dollar pound is about 1.3. I don't know what it is, but you'll get an idea in a second. They operate PlanView, probably one of the world's leading PPM tools. As you guys know, there's about 150 PPM tools on the marketplace today. Every week somebody else is entering the marketplace with another tool. And yeah, what we did is that data quality assessment, I should have mentioned this before, is not just a one-off exercise, but it's actually automated, that every time we take a data ingest, we play back the data quality. You know, this project hasn't necessarily included all of the right data. Work with a PMO function to improve that data on an ongoing basis. You got it. We stood up the prediction tool. We stood up the prediction tool not only to improve their data and to predict projects live, but also to projects not yet started as well. And the results for that were quite amazing in my particular view. First of all, we really turned the dial on data. Obviously, you know, this whole point about garbage in, garbage out, it's addressing that. We embrace the addressing of the data quality. Actually, we significantly reduced the volume and the value of projects overspending. So you can see over 80% reduction in terms of the number of projects overspending. And then the marginality of how much they were overspending was also significantly reduced. And it turned out, actually, on their £250 million portfolio, we made 6.4% savings. So just think about what that organization is doing with that extra money. You know, it's doing more projects or bigger scope when it comes to change control. Just think about your portfolio, what it could be if you were making that saving of that. And of course, there's all case studies available in more detail if anybody wants to see those, as it were. Now, I wanted just to talk about this related one because it comes back to the question about knowledge as well. So we were kind of fortunate that this particular organization, same as the previous organization, has a relatively mature lessons learned data set. So they are mandated as part of their project lifecycle to record lessons at the end of projects. Yes, they're encouraged to record lessons throughout the life cycle, certainly at gate moments as well. It meant that they've got 5,000 lessons across 200 odd closed projects. What we did is we created a product for them called Intelligent Project Lessons. And the purpose of that product is to unlock that knowledge and serve the right lessons to the right projects as early as possible in the life cycle. Now, the way that we do that is twofold. First of all, you know, I was talking about the features associated with projects a second ago. So those projects out of the UK, Give me all of the lessons, historical lessons from projects out of the UK, and serve those to the live projects or the proposed projects coming out of the UK. That sounds wonderful. However, a lot of those were gobbledygook in terms of, repeating themselves, or certainly the way that they've been captured. Lessons aren't captured as well as risks, as we all know, because we're all trying to fly off to the next project, as it were. This is where Gen AI can be really useful in its own right, to level out and objectify those lessons, crush them and reduce them. And of course, 10 lessons that said the sponsor needed training around communications, we only need to say that once. Again, this point that I haven't really touched on about explainability is really important as well to us. Why are we making that prediction? Why are we suggesting that that lesson is prevalent for that project? Back to thinking about features again. And for us, it was a vast reduction, and you can see what we're thinking there is, well, we were lucky that this company allowed us to reach into OpenAI. From our point of view, obviously anonymized, all of that stuff, so you can't tell which organizations' lessons or names of projects or names of individuals. But actually, again, you think about this comes from our point of view. Yeah, we're taking a top-down approach, and at a certain level, the majority of lessons are ubiquitous across different projects. It's about getting your foundations right, as it were. That's not to say that when you get more and more explicit, that particular brick type or code type is very explicit to that particular project that has an aligned feature, as it were. We're linking now with other sources of data, which is an interesting one there. As we know, there's probably about 50 PM assistants that are now available on the marketplace, and all of them are racing to say theirs is better than the others. What we do is we work with that host organization to make sure that it's trained on the data from that organization, along with the standards body that they particularly work with. On the NLP side as well, obviously that more active chatbot as well, so that you can then investigate what the systems are telling you, as it were. Now, I want to get through these slides and give at least 5 minutes at the end. The challenges that we have found, and I'm sure you guys, if I'd done a poll on this, would have probably come across similar challenges. We all know about garbage in, garbage out. Data needs to be addressed. Yeah, so how do you improve your quality of your data? What I can tell you is, don't put your head in the sand, don't ignore it, and start getting some structure. The challenge for me there is, what we do as humans is we try and manage the detail. Yeah. And then, funnily enough, people work their own magic outside of the control processes. So we call it the term the minimum viable governance. Think about what that means for your organization, and don't chase shadows. Don't over control your data points. Work out which ones are the most important to control, as it were. So, a little insight there around data. Obviously, we're pushing the bounds around technology. Back to my very first starting point is, no one company can do that. From our point of view, obviously, we have the experience of working with multiple companies, multiple technology types, and hopefully that allows us to be a little bit a step ahead. Oh, did I mention resistance to change? This is a transformation, Jenny. Yes, I did. Thank you, Julia. A quick thing about where is this all going? I mentioned earlier AI agents. Now, for me, this is really, really powerful, and you can see that all of this is starting to enable each other. So tomorrow evening, I'm talking about linking sustainable outcomes with project delivery execution as it were. Well, AI agents can start enabling that, taking data points which were once in a very siloed system over here and relating it to your project execution in a mini level. Just think about what I said there about lessons versus prediction. So I prophesize that that will increasingly happen. I don't think I'm that out there by saying that, but I think this relationship between strategy, delivery, and operations will start coming to the fore. The leaders in project execution will recognize this and recognize that success is greater than execution as well. And therefore, you're already thinking beyond the steps of prediction into prescription, as it were. Half pint full, it's about managing risks and not issues. So making these right decisions right at the start of projects before you have committed the resource in the first place, as it were. And again, hopefully, I've just touched on this point about human AI integration coming to the fore as well. One of the things that we find is if an organization is like, it's a bit like a kid in a toy shop, a kid in a sweet shop, isn't it? There's so many sweets out there, you don't know where to begin, which one tastes nice or which one's has got pepper in it. So perhaps you need some help to work out the adoption strategy for AI and project management. We're finding companies do. So just to mention that to you guys, wouldn't it be nice to have a prioritized transformation roadmap? Right. In conclusion, what am I going to say? I'll leave it to one of our sponsors. I think this was captured a year ago, this statement. So that was the particular award-winning organization. It was the case study that I mentioned as well. I think it's a really good sum up for somebody who's an evangelist in this. They are seeing those benefits, and getting ahead. They're leaping into effectiveness rather than just efficiency. So I know we've got a couple of minutes now for questions. I'll leave that on screen. But Letitia, Julia, have we got any questions that we can take? I think we've got time for at least a couple, I would have thought.
Well, I am very, very disappointed that I became from Chabanga or whatever that was to zero. I knew nothing about AI until you you started talking. So
I'm sure you knew some.
So one of the questions was AI is limited by the amount of knowledge that is shared publicly. How can we include data sets that are limited to organizations that have set up their own AI models? It means that important data sets are excluded.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really interesting question there. And it's sort of related to the paranoia of many organizations as well. Let me just tell you a little ditty because I love this story. There's nobody from the BBC on the call, is there? Let's assume not. I was doing a talk at the BBC, and one of the things I do at the front, sometimes when I don't do that Star Wars question, I ask them about who's using ChatGPT. Other products are available. And basically, they were saying, no, we're not allowed to use ChatGPT in our organization. But lo and behold, some hands started appearing that they are using it. So the message there is that you can try and mitigate the control of your internal systems as much as possible. You will find that it is human behaviors that we will try and find a smarter, quicker way to do things. So actually, I think what you need to do is work out how to get that blend right. So if you're in a completely, totally secure environment, how do you get the best of technology? And, these large technology providers are on that ticket, whether that's build the local LLM, as it were. We all know about the recent push from China, as it were, to take those and put them within locked environments. do that every so often. It's like taking a cut of knowledge and bringing it in. So there's ways around this depending on which environment you're in, and you have to be very specific with the strategies, the guidelines, the frameworks for that particular organization. But don't dismiss it, is my point. Don't stop the journey. Work out how to get on that journey. So hopefully that's useful.
So the other one was, how can the system integrate EEF and EIF to make a more accurate prediction?
What's
Whatever
EEF
EEF and EIF, I have
Nobody
no idea.
knows what that
No,
means. I
nobody
love a
knows.
useless. I love a useless TLA. There's, you know, whoever wrote that, just let us know what they meant. I'm sure it's some algorithms they were getting into.
So it's
Message me
enterprise,
separately.
external, and internal factors.
Sorry, Julia.
Enterprise external factors and enterprise internal factors.
Yeah, I think that's the same point to the last question, really, which is, you know, you have to go through a process to understand what they are, what data exists with them, and how you're going to interact with that data. Run it like a project, guys. You know, so I was saying here, this is a transformation program. Within that transformation program, whatever the first phase is, get into detail and answer those questions. Yeah, that's not to say you can't have an experimentation strand going on in parallel, but for your serious projects that you're trying to productionize, then run those in detail projects. You know, for me, there's probably 3 strands for that transformation project. The ones that you're moving forward with production, the ones you're experimenting, and then the ones you're preparing for as well. So getting your data prepared, getting your processes prepared, maybe agreeing what the benchmark of the processes are going forward as well. So think about that as well. Letitia, are we all right for time? Are we going to carry on for a few minutes or?
We've actually exhausted, it's already 7:02, but if everyone is okay to have another couple of minutes
Cool.
over.
Should we do one more question and then move on the slide, yeah?
Okay, so we had, I know, Sirisha, you mentioned one more question. How do we make sure the lessons learned are documented if people move around once the project is finished? In my experience,
Yeah, I love that.
In my
I love
experience,
that
when we got
question.
a legacy system migration, I had to chase down lessons learned from people who had already moved to other teams and worked it out geographically.
And that's an age-old problem, and you know, and goes back to our desire to move people to the next project as well. So I definitely hear that. So it's not just about unlocking the data, it's about actually creating the data of a certain quality in the first place as well. So it's not just about capturing it, there's also checking that there's quality checks as well. And ultimately, the only way that you can do that is a cultural shift in the way that you manage your project. So one step is defining the processes, you know, and to say that, for example, a project is not closed until those lessons learned are logged, and they're not closed until those lessons learned of a quality nature are logged as well. Much better to do it as you go along with lessons learned as well. Again, a cultural shift. So that is a change piece in its own right, even before you start talking about data and the leverage of that data. Great question, whoever that was. So Letitia, I know that you're keen to put that one up as well. Just to check. I think this is a way of you guys telling me whether it was interesting or not. If it was too high level for anybody, like I said, please message me separately on LinkedIn and get in touch. But I think if you point your phones at the QR code, it brings up a few questions. Letitia, any more to add to that?
Just while we do the QR code, if you do have some other questions, you all have the ability now to unmute yourselves and just, you know, can actually go say a few words as well.
Letitia, just to let you know, one question that's come through on LinkedIn for me is the session being recorded and made available?
Yes.
Excellent.
It's currently being recorded.
Excellent. Okay. Do you want me to leave that on screen, Letitia?
Yes, please. And one question as well for who is keen to know more as well on AI in project management, please reach out to either myself or Julia, who is here as well, because we would love to, you know, build up a community on AI as well here in Sydney. So please feel free to drop us an email and we can talk more offline on this.
Letitia, without putting you on the spot, I know, obviously, because I speak with lots of PMI chapters, that a lot have their own little group going on around AI and project management. So if you had a sufficient interest, maybe you would consider, you know, creating a you know, its own little a subgroup, as it were. But anyway, like I said.
Thank you. And I've got a question actually for you, Lloyd.
Oh, cool.
Do you offer a free trial of your system by any chance?
No, we don't. If you imagine half of our challenge is working out, it's bespoke to a particular organization. It's not plug and play. It's working out the data that you've got in your organization. Whoever's asking that, please do get in touch and we can work out what we can and can't do. But if you can imagine, this isn't, you know, like MS Project or whatever it's called these days, where you log it in, you start inputting your data. It's far more complex than that. So yeah, please do get in touch.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Lloyd, for joining early mornings for you in the UK. Thank you everyone who is on the line for joining us tonight. And thank you, Julia and Mai and the rest of the PMI crew who've been attending here tonight as well. So thank you very much. Have a great evening.
And thank you for inviting me, and have a great evening, everybody. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lloyd. Thanks, Eva.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks all.
Bye, Mohammed. Bye, Ali.